Old West, a landscape etched into the global imagination, a canvas for legends of daring outlaws, stoic lawmen, and explosive gunfights that defined an era. From high-noon standoffs to chaotic saloon brawls, our collective understanding of these confrontations is largely shaped by dime novels and Hollywood blockbusters. But what if I told you that much of what you think you know about Old West gunfights is, in fact, a carefully constructed myth? That the reality was far more nuanced, often less dramatic, and frequently more brutal than any silver screen portrayal? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the romanticized violence of the American frontier, exposing 5 shocking truths about Old West gunfights that will fundamentally change how you view this iconic period. Prepare to have your perceptions challenged, because the dust of history is about to reveal a much grittier and ultimately more compelling picture. Our first shocking truth shatters perhaps the most pervasive myth. Old West gunfights were incredibly rare, and when they did occur, they were astonishingly brief. Forget the drawn-out, dramatic duels where adversaries eye each other across a dusty main street, hands hovering over their holsters for an eternity. That cinematic tension is pure fiction. In reality, confrontations that escalated to gunfire were outliers, not daily occurrences. Towns were often small, populations sparse, and the consequences of violence severe. When gunfights did erupt, they were typically chaotic, sudden, and over in a matter of seconds. Most involved a handful of shots fired at very close range, often with little accuracy. Take the legendary shootout at the Corral, often cited as the quintessential Old West gunfight. Despite its monumental status in popular culture, the entire exchange lasted less than 30 seconds, involved perhaps 30 shots, and resulted in 3 deaths and 3 injuries. This wasn't a prolonged ballet of bullets. It was a furious, terrifying explosion of violence. Many other documented gunfights involved even fewer shots and ended even quicker. The idea of 2 men slowly walking towards each other, waiting for the perfect moment to draw, was not only impractical, but suicidal in an era where surprise and speed of action, not theatricality, dictated survival. People valued their lives, and engaging in such a public, prearranged duel was an invitation to an early grave, often for both parties. The scarcity of these events also stems from the fact that most conflicts were resolved through other means: arguments, brawls, or simply avoidance. The romantic notion of a town where disputes were routinely settled at gunpoint is a dramatic embellishment that obscures the mundane, often difficult realities of frontier life, where survival often depended more on cooperation and negotiation than on deadly force. This leads us directly to our second revelation. The quick draw, as depicted in movies, was largely a myth, and marksmanship was often secondary to simply having a gun ready. The iconic image of the lightning-fast draw, a blur of motion as the gun clears the holster and fires with pinpoint accuracy, is a product of Hollywood special effects and exhibition shooters. In the rough-and-tumble reality of the Old West, most holsters were not designed for a rapid, smooth draw. Many were simple, open-top affairs, sometimes even cross-draw setups, designed more for secure carrying on horseback or during daily labor than for instantaneous access. The idea of fanning the hammer or firing from the hip with precision was also mostly a fantasy. While some individuals undoubtedly possessed remarkable dexterity and skill, the vast majority of gunfights happened at extremely close quarters, often arm's length, where drawing and firing quickly, even clumsily, was more critical than surgical accuracy. The focus wasn't on hitting a coin at 20 paces, but on hitting a large target that was potentially trying to kill you. Marksmanship in the heat of a chaotic, sudden confrontation was often poor, even among those considered skilled. Bullet wounds were common, but instant death was not guaranteed, leading to prolonged suffering or disabling injuries. The celebrated fastest gun reputation often came from winning a few close-range skirmishes, or more often from successfully intimidating opponents without firing a shot. The psychological impact of being known as someone who could and would use their weapon was often more valuable than the actual speed of their draw. Many so-called quick draws were actually preemptive strikes or draws from an already prepared position, not a sudden, impossible feat of speed from a relaxed stance. The myth distracts from the gritty reality that survival often depended more on alertness, opportunity, and a willingness to act decisively, rather than on a superhuman ability to draw and fire. Our third shocking truth reveals the pragmatic and often brutal reality of the weapons and tactics employed. Not every gunfight involved a six-shooter, and fair duels were rare. Ambushes and shotguns were common. When we think of Old West gunfights, the Colt single-action Army revolver, or Peacemaker, immediately springs to mind. And while the revolver was indeed a prevalent personal sidearm, it was far from the only, or even the most decisive, weapon used in violent confrontations. Shotguns, particularly the double-barreled variety, were devastatingly effective at close range, often referred to as street sweepers, for their ability to incapacitate multiple targets or deliver a crippling blow with a single blast. Rifles, especially lever-action models like the Winchester, were also widely carried and utilized, offering superior range and accuracy when circumstances allowed. The romantic notion of a fair fight between two armed men standing evenly was largely a construct of fiction. In reality, survival dictated tactics, and an ambush was often considered a perfectly legitimate, if cowardly, way to deal with an enemy. Many historical gunfights involved one party having a clear advantage, whether through surprise, superior numbers, or a more powerful weapon. This wasn't about honor. It was about survival and eliminating a threat. Furthermore, the environment played a crucial role. Gunfights often took place in confined spaces like saloons or cramped streets, where cover was minimal and the chaos of flying. Splinters and ricocheting bullets added to the danger. The idea of an open, clear line of fire was often a luxury. The practical reality of frontier violence was that people used whatever weapons they had at hand, in whatever manner provided the greatest chance of success, often disregarding any sense of chivalry or fair play. The goal was to end the threat quickly and decisively, and that often meant striking first and hard without warning. Moving on to our fourth startling fact. Many Old West towns had strict gun control laws, and not everyone was openly armed. The image of every man on the frontier swaggering through town with a holstered revolver on his hip is another enduring myth that crumbles under historical scrutiny. While the frontier was indeed a place where self-reliance was paramount, and carrying a weapon for protection against bandits, hostile Native Americans, or dangerous wildlife was common when traveling, many established towns quickly implemented ordinances restricting the carrying of firearms within city limits. These laws were often enacted to maintain order, reduce violence, and promote a sense of civility in burgeoning communities. Towns like Dodge City, Tombstone, and Deadwood, famous for their lawlessness and popular culture, actually had regulations requiring visitors to check their firearms at the town limits, typically at the sheriff's office or a local saloon. These no-guns-in-town laws were enforced, sometimes strictly, sometimes loosely, depending on the particular lawman and the prevailing atmosphere. The goal was to prevent casual disputes from escalating into deadly gunfights, acknowledging that an abundance of readily available firearms contributed to public disorder. Therefore, many of the confrontations that did occur involved individuals who were either breaking these laws or who pulled a hidden weapon, or were armed with a weapon that was not typically carried openly, like a shotgun or rifle taken from a wagon. The notion of an anything-goes attitude toward firearms ownership and carrying is a dramatic oversimplification. The reality was a complex interplay between individual rights, community safety, and the constant struggle to impose order on a wild landscape, mirroring debates about firearms that continue to this day. The Wild West was not uniformly wild in every aspect, and many communities actively sought to tame the most dangerous elements, including the casual display and use of firearms. Finally, our fifth shocking truth illuminates the grim reality of the aftermath and consequences of gunfights. They rarely resulted in instant, clean deaths, and the legal repercussions were often far more complex and arbitrary than depicted. Hollywood often portrays gunfight victims dropping dead instantly, or perhaps uttering a dramatic final word before succumbing. The reality was far messier, more painful, and often prolonged. Bullets from the era, particularly from revolvers, were not always instantly lethal. While severe, they often led to agonizing injuries, slow bleeding, infection, and a protracted death. Medical care on the frontier was rudimentary at best, and a bullet wound, even a seemingly non-fatal one, could easily lead to gangrene, amputation, or a lingering death days or weeks later. Survivors often carried debilitating injuries for the rest of their lives. Beyond the physical toll, the legal consequences were a labyrinth of local prejudices, sparse evidence, and often biased justice. The frontier legal system was nascent and often inconsistent. What might be considered self-defense in one town could be murder in another, depending on the local sheriff, judge, or even the popular sentiment. Famous figures like Wyatt Earp faced murder charges after the Corral shootout, despite being seen as lawmen. Trials were often spectacles, influenced by public opinion, political machinations, and the financial resources of the accused. Justice was not always blind. It was often swayed by reputation, local allegiances, and the ability to find credible witnesses in a transient population. Furthermore, a gunfight, even if legally justified, could mark a man for life, making it difficult to settle down, find employment, or escape the shadow of past violence. The romanticized notion of a clean slate after a victorious shootout is a fantasy. The consequences were profound, affecting not just the immediate participants but also their families and the broader community, often leaving a lasting legacy of bitterness and resentment. So, there you have it. 5 shocking truths that dismantle the romanticized narrative of Old West gunfights. The reality was a world where violence was rare but brutal, where skill was less about showmanship and more about survival, where tactics were pragmatic and often cowardly, where communities wrestled with gun control, and where the aftermath was a painful, often unjust, struggle. Understanding these truths doesn't diminish the allure of the Old West. If anything, it deepens it, revealing a human drama far more complex, dangerous, and compelling than any myth could ever portray. It reminds us that history is not a collection of sensational stories, but a rich tapestry of inconvenient facts, human choices, and the enduring struggle between chaos and order. If you found these revelations as fascinating as we did, and you're eager to uncover more hidden truths about the American frontier, be sure to
hit that like button, share this video with fellow history enthusiasts, and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the myths and realities of the Old West. We're constantly unearthing new insights, and you won't want to miss our next journey into the annals of history.